Good morning, everyone. How are we doing today? Just turn those cameras on so I can see everybody's bright, smiley faces. See Jacqueline still in bed. She's going to sit up so it doesn't look like she's in bed. Jonathan, where are you today? Are you here, Jonathan? Thought I see. Yeah, here you are. Jonathan Raster. Talk to me.
Yeah, hold on. I'm just moving places.
All right. You're in a group by yourself. We only have 90 people, but we have 91 names. So I'm gonna, after I'm able to access the new roster, I will put you in a group.
All right, sounds good, Professor.
So you won't be by yourself in a lonely group doing a 100-page paper by yourself.
For sure.
All right. All right. So anything new and exciting? Am I the only one that can't access iLearn? Yeah. Okay. So I haven't been able to access it all weekend. I did once on Saturday and that was it. Now it's just giving me. No problem here. Okay. So it's just me. No. I just keep getting the spinning wheel of death. It just keeps spinning and spinning and spinning. Nothing happens. So I know it's not my internet. Because I get to see all of you lovely people. All right. Give us a few more minutes. See, okay, so we have a few people that have some problems. Okay. Lucas, are you awake? Look like you're about ready to fall asleep. Looks like Earl's asleep. No, he's awake? Okay. Marivelle looks like she's doing work on the computer. She has my screen minimized. Makes me feel insignificant. All right. We get to see Monica's top of her head. That's about it. All right. So any updates from Dennis? What's going on with your sections? How are we doing over on sections, Dennis?
Everything seems to be going pretty well. No problems on my side.
Okay. So what are you guys covering?
Well, I just finished covering chapter 3 from last week.
Okay.
And then people were asking about a midterm review.
Midterm review. We still
So I'll be
2 weeks for that.
for next week.
Okay. So what are you going to review for the midterm?
I'm still figuring that out since it was just brought to my attention today.
Like the value chain would be a good idea, maybe. What do you think? And Porter's Five Forces would be another good idea.
Yeah, definitely Porter's Five Forces and all the environment. Get some examples.
Okay. Trisha, you look too happy to be here. What's going on? Joseph, good morning. Zuli, what's for breakfast? All right. So shall we get started and get this over with? Everybody's up bright and early? All right. Rosa, you look too excited. All righty. All right, so today we're going to talk about Chapter 4, Cost Advantage. We're going to use Tata Motors as one of your examples. They had a little excerpt in the book about that. Economies of scale and scope, the learning curve, input costs, different business models and value chains. Value chains, I can't stress value chains enough. Going to talk a little bit about mini case Southwest later this week. And then I'll keep you apprised of what's due and what's new and what's due. Let's see. All right. Thank you, Omar, for the update. What's going on with that? And let's see. Okay. All right. Moving on. So the source of cost advantage. So in order for a company to get a competitive advantage, obviously cost advantage is going to be one of them. And the ways to do that are called economies of scale, learning and experience effects, lower costs due to proprietary knowledge, lower input costs, and different business model. And I'll go over each and over all of these as we progress through the week. So, but these 5 sources of advantage are a good thing to know, especially for the midterm. Okay, so we talked about, we're going to talk a little bit about Walmart mini case. So the advantage, protecting price advantage is one of the issues that one of the things that Walmart is good at. Focus people to ensure operational efficiency, culture committed to business success, connecting people to products, focus on reducing expenses, and talent strategy driving results. So the HR portion of that, the training is kind of a big thing with Walmart, and also connecting people to products. So as you can see, more and more, Walmart is starting to be more active on the internet and trying to compete with Amazon. So they're even getting third-party sellers on their platform now, just like Amazon. Okay. So why has Walmart been successful? Low prices is the #1 reason. Everybody should have put that in their first paragraph and probably their first sentence. Markets, distribution, vendor pricing, factors from the entire value chain. So what Walmart has done is concentrated on their value chain and tried to be very proactive about getting each portion of that value chain as successful as they can to beat all their competitors. Okay. Walmart doesn't necessarily have the lowest prices, but they have the perceived low prices because that's pretty much what Walmart tells everybody. They're everyday low prices. We, live better, all this other good stuff. So they're telling everybody that we do have the lowest prices, but in actuality, in some of these smaller markets that they're in markets where it's 50,000 people or less, they're the first movers into that area. So they actually get to set prices pretty much however they want, because people are not going to drive 50 miles to the next to the Target or to another store to go check out the prices. They might buy online, but they're not going to drive 50 miles just to see if Walmart has the actual lowest prices. And even if they didn't have the lowest prices, you can drive 50 miles to save a couple of dollars. No, not really. So why exactly are Walmart's cars lower than its competitors? The distribution. Walmart has spent millions and millions of dollars on refining their distribution and upgrading it, the IT portion of it, and all this other good stuff. So supplier relations. I don't know how that relationship works other than Walmart says, hey, you got to lower your prices. If you don't, we're not going to put your stuff on the shelf. So as far as relationships goes, they kind of dictate to what they, to the consumers or to the manufacturers, what pricing they're going to actually give Walmart. For a while, Walmart did this to a company called Classico, which makes a spaghetti sauce. So Classico told Walmart that they weren't going to bend to their will, and so they didn't have their product on their shelves for a couple of years, but now it's back on the shelf. So they came to some kind of a mutual agreement. Most likely, Classico gave in. So information technology, Walmart is always upgrading all of their technology. HR management, marketing and merchandising, store costs, location versus population. So all of these things you guys included in your paper, which was a good thing. We talked key to Walmart strategy and cost of goods sold, pressure on suppliers, distribution network, locating stores in the 50K. Some of you put 5,000, which you left out the 0. So be careful about that next time. When you're quoting certain things, make sure you get it correct in your paper. Over 2,000 stores in rural America. So that's quite a few stores in places where there's 50,000 people or less. Okay, so they can actually charge higher prices and make a higher profit in rural America. So lower rents, obviously, it's going to cost them a lot less to build a huge Walmart on a stretch of highway where there's nothing around, other than farms, and then as opposed to building it in a downtown LA market. Okay, and many times they have the first mover advantage and innovative technology in the distribution. Okay, which doesn't always work in other countries, as we found out, right? All right, so do we have any questions about Walmart? And we're going to put that behind us. Anyone? All right. All right, so your book talked a little bit about Tata Motors, or Tata Motors. Not sure exactly how to pronounce that. So Tata saw some guy on a motorcycle with his family, had 4 people on a motorcycle, thinking, well, there got to be a better way than that, and a safer way, right? So being an engineer, he thought, and also already having a truck company, thought he could engineer a better product. So a lot of times this is how innovative ideas come about, how multi-billion-dollar companies start off from from somebody seeing something that needs to be fixed. Okay, so Tata doesn't just make the world's cheapest cars; they make everything from big, huge buses to SUVs to small, little, teeny nano cars. Okay. So we're going to talk about, there's 2 different strategies for cost advantage. There's differentiating advantage, which we're going to talk about next week. And then this week, we're talking about cost advantage. Fun stuff, right? Okay. So there's 2 strategies to cost advantage. A firm reduces its prices below all of its competitors, thereby allowing it to gain market share. Even though many companies can do this because they're so big and they have such huge economies of scale, a lot of them don't want to do this. 1, you're going to give up a lot of profit. And 2, if you put everybody else out of business, like Facebook, you're going to be, a monopoly, and the government's going to regulate you. Okay. So the second thing, cost advantage strategy, a firm may choose the same price as competitors, which results in greater profits rather than higher market share. So utilities companies, they're usually the only ones around in a market, so they can pretty much charge whatever they want, so they don't kind of apply to this type of thing. But then again, they're supposed to be regulated by the government. Okay, so the first one on the list, we're going to talk about economies of scale. So economies of scale, a reduction in cost per unit due to increase in efficiency of product as the number of goods being produced increases. And also that includes spreading your costs over many, many different divisions, or if you have a multi-company like General Electric, you can spread them over different companies. Okay, to ability the fixed cost of production, ability to spread non-production costs, specialization of equipment, specialization of people. So the better you become, the more specialized you become, and also the bigger. Okay. So example, who buys in bulk? Wake up now.
Retailers.
Retailers like
Costco.
Amazon.
Amazon, yes. Well, Amazon sometimes has third-party sellers. So Walmart buys in bulk, and they distribute it in bulk.
Costco.
Yep. R&D budget. You guys are not going to believe this. $7 billion in research and development. Intel. So they dedicate that much money a year. 58 billion in operation cash flows. That's just money they have sitting around in cash. Who do you think this company is?
Apple.
ExxonMobil, gas company. But Apple has several billion sitting offshore, yes.
Yeah, maybe Apple has even more. Who knows?
By now, maybe. All right. So economies of scale, a scale curve representing the relationship between the cost units, and I'll show you that. Minimum efficiency scale, the smallest level of output that a plant or firm can produce to minimize its long-run average cost. And I'll present a graphic one for all you economics enthusiasts. Just economies of scale, an increase in marginal cost when output is increased, and economies of scale, the average total cost of production decrease as a result of increasing the number of different goods and products. Back in the 70s and 80s of the 1900s, General Motors was such a huge corporation that they could actually build a car cheaper than anybody else in the world. So General Motors, if they wanted to, they could have actually put every other car business out of business by making cars so cheap that they would be the cheapest car on the market. So you could buy a Cadillac cheaper than any other luxury car. You could buy a Corvette cheaper than any other sports car. But they didn't. Why didn't they do this? Anybody have an idea why they wouldn't want to do this?
Kind of like the first slide said, they wanted to hang on to profit, but also like this slide says, they probably started going into diseconomies of scale after a certain point.
Absolutely. So you keep your competition around, you can charge a higher price, you can earn a bigger profit, right? Absolutely. So in 2009, General Motors actually filed for bankruptcy. So a friend of mine whose family has owned stock in General Motors for over 100 years, their stock became valued at zero. So they went bankrupt. All the people who held stock in the old company, and they actually created a new company. This is actually one of the biggest bankruptcy bailouts of the century and of almost any other company. So what they did is they had $82 billion in assets and $173 billion in liabilities. And what they did is they formed a new company, they let the old company go bankrupt, and kind of moved from there. And I'll post an article that's kind of an interesting read from the guy who put it together's perspective, which is kind of gives you, he's a consultant. So what that does, it'll kind of give you an idea of what I'm expecting on the final project, how you get yourself in your mind, in a mindset of acting like a consultant, and they'll kind of give you a little bit of an idea there. Short little read, and I'll post that as soon as I have access to iLearn. Okay. So the cost advantage strategy is in which the unique value offered to customers lower price products or services. The learning curve, the concept that labor costs per unit decrease with increased volume due to learning. So when you learn a skill, you can do it a lot quicker. After you've been doing it a few years, you can do it really quick. Okay, so a lot of this a lot of that applies to manufacturing, and a lot of it applies to some of these larger companies for and that do services. So the most expensive part of company and HR is training people to do this and becoming good at it. Okay, but subsequently learning becomes much slower after a while. Experience curve, a representative of the relationship between cumulative volume and product cost. Okay, so all of this stuff is from your book. Okay, so the experience curve for your economic majors, best fit line. So the longer you do something, the better you become at it, the cheaper it gets. And it only goes to a certain point. And then once you get to that point, you can't go any further. And I will post these slides later this week for all of you vigorously writing down notes. Okay. So why the experience curve works, decreasing variable cost per unit due to learning. So the human learning, efficiency, design and process technology and learning. So sometimes new technology will be introduced into the manufacturing process that'll even make it cheaper, better, more efficient. Decreasing fixed cost per unit due to scale. So if I'm buying a billion little screws and nuts, I obviously get a better price than somebody who only buys a million, right? And mostly this applies to manufacturing. Okay, so limitations, market share does not guarantee substantial cost advantage. What is the cost of a market share? Learning curve flattens when high experience. Spillovers, knowledge of to rivals lower their cost of learning. For example, in the manufacturing industry for the car manufacturing, many of the other car manufacturers have tried to imitate Toyota's KPIs. And what happens is they're able to imitate them to a certain point, but they can't get them down all the way. So they're only working at a 30 or 40% efficiency rate when they try and copy a lot of these things. And as far as manufacturing goes, Toyota is like one of the top manufacturers in the world when it comes to efficiency. Aging equipment can impede continued learning and cost advantages. So like the airlines, many times with their equipment, the planes are very old, 20, 30 years old, and the technology doesn't really change that much. And when it does, then you get something like the MAX 737 when they're trying to put in a lot of this new technology to help the pilots, and it turns out around to bite them in the butt. Okay. Disadvantages of scale. So firms with scale have an advantage in economic upturn, but may be disadvantaged during downturns. So what do you think is an example? Who do you think is getting hurt that's a big company that has these huge economic scales, buying power, and all this other good stuff? Name some companies.
I'd say definitely the airlines.
The airlines are probably hurting, yes. What other companies that have this huge, that can have good buying power, have all of these things set in place, but because of the downturn, economic downturn, is really having a hard time? What companies are going out of business?
I know oil companies are having a hard time.
Oil companies are having a hard time because people are not driving. We're not, we're not driving to work. As you can see, I'm sitting in my bedroom over here. You guys are not driving to school.
Specialty brick and mortar retailers.
Absolutely. How many retailers have gone out of business? You got Williams-Sonoma just announced that they're going to go close all the stores. So you have all these large retail chains all over the United States saying, "Hey, we're going to shut down. We can't do this anymore." Forever 21. So a lot of these ones are just they can't handle it because even look at University of Riverside. Some of these UC schools, they're going to do huge budget cuts coming up. Yeah, I know the buffets, my China buffet, my favorite place to eat is there. None of them are open anymore. Um, so you see, look at, they got all of this real estate that they have to maintain and take care of. The dorms are what? Almost empty. They only got a few people in the dorms. They have, they're not making any money off of housing. They're not making any money off the food. You guys are not spending money at the buying food on campus. So they're going to have to make these huge budget cuts in order to, you know, survive the downturn, you know, and you're going to see a lot of these universities throughout the United States are going to start going out of business. They already started consolidating. I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but a lot of these schools are buying other schools or merging. Okay. They have more difficulty spending fixed costs when demand declines, so they can't spread that cost out over many different stores. Firms with heavy fixed assets can respond to this concern by shifting more of their cost structure from fixed cost to variable cost, outsourcing. Nike outsources almost bless you. Nike almost outsources everything that they produce, right? So Disneyland outsources and license all of their stuffed animals or their princess dresses, right? So my little niece, she has a new princess dress every week. You know, it's ridiculous. But anyway, okay. Diversify into business that are counter-cyclical. All right. So number 3, we're going to lower costs due to proprietary knowledge. Okay, information that is not public and that is viewed as a proprietary of the holder. So many of these companies have secrets that they have their Kentucky Fried Chicken. Who knows the 11 herbs and spices of Kentucky Fried Chicken? A secret that's been held in the United States since forever. You guys want to know the secret? There they are. I don't know if this is true or not, but all right, so Kentucky Fried Chicken has proprietary, nobody's going to copy them. I know there's Chick-fil-A and there's Raising Cane's and Popeyes all have their own secret recipes, but KFC is still number 1, I guess, for now. Okay, Toyota. Proprietary knowledge, use a pull system to avoid overproductions. So they pull what they need at the time, just-in-time delivery to reduce inventories. Many of the large companies did that in my industry. So instead of stockpiling toners for their printers and copiers, they want everything delivered next day right to the desktop. Okay, so a lot of companies do that with parts, with supplies. Level out the workload to smooth production. Use visual controls to eliminate problems and reduce defects. So a lot of their automated machines, you have these big, huge screens so they know what's going on. Find the bottleneck to increase productivity. So they find out ways to solve all these problems. And Toyota is like one of the best people in the world to do this. Okay. Cost reduction at US auto plants, attempting to imitate Toyota's production. So a little chart of what happens when they try and imitate it. Basically, up to about 30% is what they can do. And beyond that, Toyota has done such great things that they really can't imitate all of their things. Okay. What is a secret ingredient to Coca-Cola? It's actually cocaine, the coca leaf extract. Coca-Cola put cocaine in their drink for many, many years. They keep the recipe in an extra secret vault, which in SunTrust Bank, which they just moved to Atlanta not too long ago. There's something else I was going to tell you about Coca-Cola. I can't remember. All right, lower input costs. Okay, resources such as people, raw materials, energy, information, financing that are put into a system to obtain desired outputs. There are 4 primary ways the company achieve cost advantage through lower cost inputs. Exercising strong bargaining power over suppliers. We've used Walmart several times for this example. So Walmart to say, hey, do you want your product on 20,000 different shelves throughout the United States and in different countries? You know, who's going to say no to that? There's a few, but everybody's going to want to do that. Cooperating especially well with suppliers. So, for example, Toyota actually buys into their suppliers. They actually become partners with their suppliers, owning anywhere from 100% to 10% of the companies that they do business with. So, obviously, if you invest in the companies you do business with, you have interest in them. Okay, getting input from low-cost locations. For example, Walmart will actually help farmers in the areas where their stores are to help them build up their farms, help them build a scale to where they'll be able to service many different Walmarts in the area or region. Arrange better access to inputs other than that other companies have. So the distribution centers will help will help build distribution centers not just for themselves but for other companies and other places that help. For example, Honda builds the best engines anywhere. They can actually put those engines not just in cars, but boats and other, motorcycles and other things. Okay, Nike, since Nike outsources most of their stuff, they can actually move their manufacturing to a different company easily enough. So whoever offers the lowest price of sewing together some leather to, on a piece of rubber can get the business. So Nike will not only, Nike used to produce a lot of shoes in South Korea, and then it became cheaper to move them to China, and then sometimes it's cheaper to move them to India. So Nike just says, okay, let's go out to bid. Who has the cheapest price to put these shoes together, or make sportswear, whatever they're selling, and they say, okay, yeah, you got the bid for the next 2 years, or you got the bid for the next 3 years. Okay. And De Beers, obviously, we know that diamonds are not so much a rare as the industry is being very well managed as to make it look like there is a high demand for a very low product or low demand product, okay, or supply product. I'm sorry. Bargaining power over suppliers, purchasing volume, purchasing and negotiation tactics. Walmart is an example of who does this very, very well. Cooperating with suppliers. Toyota is an example how they actually help their suppliers, buy into their suppliers, become partners with them. Preferred access to inputs. Oil drilling. A lot of these oil companies will actually work together to pull the oil out of the ground. And then once they get it, they define it and distribute it. Location advantages. Wage rates. Obviously, a lot of these manufacturing plants are moved out of the country because it's cheaper. For example, car parts are made in Mexico because the labor is a lot cheaper to do so. Exchange rates also because of the money exchange rate and raw materials. I have a friend who does a lot of finance stuff. He based a lot of it out of Canada. So just converting the money from the Canadian currency to the US currency, he can actually make money just doing that. So he makes a lot of money just on the exchange rates. All right, so different business models. The plan and set of activities implemented by a company to offer unique value and generate revenue, make a profit from operations, and the value chain again. The sequence of all activities that are performed by a firm to turn raw materials into the finished products that is sold to a buyer. All right, so the different business models. Configure the value chain. Eliminate activities in the steps of the value chain. Eliminate retail stores. For example, Netflix. What did they do to Blockbuster? They pretty much put them out of business, right?
Entirely.
Really, there's still one Blockbuster and it's in Bend, Oregon. So you can go.
Yeah, as a relic.
I know. Huh? It's inconceivable to your generation to get in your car, get dressed. First of all, you got to get dressed, get in your car, drive 10 minutes to a little store that's the size of a 7-Eleven, pick out a movie, pay for it, maybe buy some candy and popcorn, then drive home, then pop it into a machine that is specially designed just for that one particular disc to play, as opposed to streaming something, right?
The really amazing thing is that the Blockbuster in Alaska closed out before the one in Oregon, and the one in Alaska actually served a purpose because the people in Alaska, they don't have good internet to stream at a fast rate or high quality. But
But
Yeah.
yeah. So, but that's how technology has changed things. Okay, so economies of scale, greater unit volume allows firms to have lower costs by spreading fixed costs across more units. Walmart is a perfect example of that. Learning and experience effects, greater cumulative volume drives cost differences due to greater learning and experience with company, more cumulative experience in production, Intel. Proprietary knowledge, Toyota has built that up through their production. Lower input costs, for example, Nike, when the costs become too great in one plant or a company that they're doing business with, they can just switch that. And different business models, which Netflix revolutionized how we watch movies. Okay. So source of cost advantages, different business models. So what has Uber and Lyft done to the taxi cabs?
Same thing there. They crippled them. They didn't entirely put them out of business, but they crippled them.
That's right. They really have. And then there's still ongoing litigation with that's going on with Uber and Lyft. So a lot of times, for example, at one point in time, in order to get this little medallion that the New York taxi cabs have to have, they pay a license. They get they get a medallion. At one time, they paid over $1 million for those. Can you imagine trying to be an individual trying to drive a taxi cab in New York City? You know, they go, yeah, you can have one, no problem, $1 million. Today, they're a little bit cheaper. They're still over $100,000. But you have your competition, and this is why these taxi cab drivers are suing Uber and Lyft, is because one, they don't have to have the insurance. Two, they don't have to have everything. They don't have to abide by all the rules set up. Because they're not a big corporation. For example, the state of California, this initiative, I forget which one it is, but they want to basically make independent contractors a thing of the past. So if you're an Uber driver or a Lyft driver, you won't be able to work like you did before. They're going to make Uber and Lyft pay extra taxes to employ all of these drivers. So they're actually going to have to be employees, and they can't be independent contractors anymore. So when you vote on that, I don't know how you feel about that, but read that, because that's going to be very important to these Uber and Lyft drivers. And if you guys depend on Uber and Lyft, this is going to affect your prices that you're going to pay greatly. They will go up substantially, because now Uber and Lyft are going to have to pay employment taxes to the state of California. All right, questions about anything so far?
The last I heard, Uber, and they may have reversed on this, but I believe they pulled out of the California market in response to Prop 22.
I don't know. I haven't heard on it. So I know it's up for vote. Yeah, Prop 22.
They did pull out, and then and I think they back forwarded on that because it's now on the ballot.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of people, especially a lot of young people, who make their money driving. So especially the way the economy is right now, that's like a huge income. You know, people are doing food deliveries, right? Through Uber and Lyft and everything, and all these other companies. Okay.
Well, I think with Uber, it's a particularly pointed issue because a lot of drivers that do drive for Uber do it as a side thing. They're not trying to make a career out of it.
No, and you know that's even with a lot of the taxi cab drivers do it part-time too. So it's not like you're going to make a full-time career out of it, but it's extra money. But what happens is, I don't know if you understand how the state of California works, but they take out taxes from the individual as payroll tax, as income tax, payroll tax, right? Well, not only that, the companies that employ you actually have to match that also. So the companies are also paying tax. So if you hire an employee, you have to pay taxes on them, and you have to subtract the taxes from their paycheck and pay the state. So, and Uber's saying, well, we're going to have to basically double what we're paying in taxes in order if this prop goes by. So a lot of people don't understand that the state of California is going to double tax these large corporations. So they're going to tax them when they pay the employees, and they're going to tax them, they're going to make them be employees and then tax them again. So,
The harsh reality of being an entrepreneur with like a sole proprietorship, I believe.
yeah, and the small businesses, which usually most small businesses consist of 5 people. Okay, those small businesses have to pay the tax on their employees that they have, and they also employ more than 50% of the working population. So that's another way the state of California is going to try and get money from the small businesses, where they're going to have to pay more. All right, you guys got a civics lesson today too. Woohoo! All right, that's all I have for you this afternoon or this morning. I'll stick around for questions. As soon as I get access to the iLearn, I will straighten out the roster. And I know there's a couple of people on the groups that shouldn't be there. So we'll get that straightened out and get your groups finalized. And that's pretty much. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you on Wednesday. And
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. One thing I wanted to mention with iLearn, one thing you might want to try is go to iLearn directly. I know that myself and some of my CS peers were able to log into iLearn directly when we couldn't access our web.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that.
And
working on, but yeah, I'll figure it out.
when you go to iLearn, you'll obviously not be logged in, but there will be like that little banner at the bottom, or kind of large banner, and with 3 things in the middle element should be to log in to it.
Okay.
Professor, I have a question.
Yeah, Thomas, what's up?
I just joined the class like last Thursday, and I put myself in a group. I put myself in a group 10, but I think that's just like 2 people. So
It's actually down to 1, but I'll figure it out. We'll either make groups of 11 if we have to, or if we have enough people, we can do group 10. But I think there's only 90 people in the classroom. So there should only be 9 groups of 10, right? If my math is correct, let me count on my fingers. So I'm
okay.
not.
No, I just added myself in a group because
Okay.
I found out about it. So.
Okay, well, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out.
Okay, sounds good. All right, bye.
You still got plenty of time. You still got 8 more weeks. Forget
Okay.
or 7 more weeks.
Lester, I noticed that the chapter 4 and 5 weren't uploaded.
No, they're not, because I didn't have access to iLearn, and then I'll get them up. I'll get them uploaded later this week. And then usually I do a lot of changes from last time I taught this, which last quarter. So I'll probably just end up uploading them at the end of the week.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
So they'll be there for you eventually.
Yeah.
Questions, concerns? Jonathan, you thinking about it?
Professor, you said we're gonna discuss about the group situation.
Yeah, I did. That's it. I'll put you somewhere.
Oh, okay, I'm sure that's it.
That's
All
it. One way or another.
Okay.
Group.
All right, thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah, okay. Shazam's asleep. No? She wait.
So we're definitely supposed to go based off of what the Google Doc says for the group numbers and the people that are in the group. Because I reached out to everybody in my group and nobody's responded yet.
Oh, that's fine. We'll put everybody in a group. You'll be able to email them, and
Okay.
I'll get on everybody's case starting about next week. I'll start
Okay.
everybody and putting up. I'll be putting up a lot more documents too. So on consulting, on how the format of what you're going to need to do, and some other stuff. So
Okay.
all right,
Thank you, Professor.
I'll give you plenty of time. You have at least 4 weeks to work on your paper.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Dennis, do we have anything to discuss?
No, I don't think so.
No? Okay. All right. Well, have a good week.
All right. You too, Professor.
All right. Take care. Bye. You can leave now, Shazam.